On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is Talk TV.
Good evening, I'm Piers Morgan, Uncensored. Tonight, the legendary Dame Joan Collins. Is Vladimir Putin dying? Britain's former spy chief thinks so. And Martina Navratilova on the Grand Slam Russia ban. But first, disgraced Prince Andrew will reportedly appear next to the Queen at one of the most important ceremonies in the royal calendar, Garter Day at Windsor Castle. Royal editor at Vanity Fair, Katie Nicholl, and British socialite Lady Colin Campbell debated if he should be allowed to weasel his way back into the royal spotlight. Katie, this does great with me, I have to say. I think if you're going to pay a woman a rumoured $11 million to make a sex abuse case go away, having said you're going to fight it all the way to clear your name, and then you just cave, I don't think you're entitled to just slither back into public life in a few months.
I agree with you. I think it's time for him to go away, actually, in the same way that that settlement just sort of struck it all out. The dignified and actually the respectful thing to do for the Queen and for the royal family is to bow out gracefully as he possibly can. This has been a spectacular fall from Andrew. He doesn't have his title, doesn't have his honorary titles, doesn't represent the Queen, doesn't carry out official duties. I think it's very difficult then to reconcile seeing him on a public stage. I know these events essentially can be seen as private events. The Garter is privately bestowed. It's the highest honour the Queen can give, OK? And this is an important one because, let's not forget, she's investing Camilla into
and Tony Blair, I think.
So, OK, less on that. But more importantly on Camilla, this is once again going to detract from all of this. And I think that just a lot of people will be sitting and watching and thinking, why? And I know from the American audience that I write for, every time the Queen is seen with Andrew, it troubles them.
It does. Well, also, they also think, quite rightly, that I'll come to Lady Colin Campbell now. First of all, good evening to you. Thank you for joining the show. I do think that, for example, we give, Meghan and Harry a hard time, I think justifiably in most cases. But what they've done, to be honest, pales into insignificance, in my opinion, to a senior member of the royal family paying millions of dollars to make a sex abuse case go away. But you don't share this view. You think he should be able to come back?
I certainly don't share this view. First of all, my information was that it's 5 figures was the settlement, and also each party had to pay its own costs and expenses. I know the press keeps on going on and on, banging the drum about several £1 million and $1 million. I don't know where they got it from, because the settlement was supposed to be confidential. So,
well, if it's confidential, how do you know it's not? It's not
believable
millions.
As your 10 or 20 figures.
Well, how do you know? How do you know it's not if it's confidential?
Well, my point is, how do you know that it's $11 million?
Well, no, it's been reported. It's been reported from very good sources. It was $11 million. If you're saying it was a much smaller sum, I'm just curious how you know.
It's not been reported from very good sources. I was told that from very good sources that it was a 5-figure sum.
That's not true. I can tell you, I know categorically that's not true.
Well, you mean you know categorically that
I know
100%
that what you've just said is not true. It's not a 5-figure settlement. I know that for a fact.
Well, I know categorically that's what I was told, and I believe my sources rather more than yours.
OK, well, you don't know who my source is, but if you did, you wouldn't say that. But look, let's move on to the wider point. Whether it's 5 figures, to be honest, look, whether it's 5 figures or millions or whatever it finally was, he settled a case having said he was going to fight it to clear his name. And I think if you do that as a senior member of the royal family, you should not be allowed to continue in public life.
Utter rubbish, Piers. With due respect, I mean, since when was this a country where you are guilty until proven innocent? This may play very well in the court of popular condemnation, but the reality is in this country, as in all civilized countries, you are innocent until you are proven guilty.
Why didn't he clear his name? He kept saying, I'm going to clear my name. Why didn't he clear his name? Why didn't he get a call?
Why didn't she? She kept on saying that she would never settle, that she wanted her day in court. She is an admitted procuress, prostitute.
No, you're making allegations now which are unsubstantiated, and I have to make that on the record.
I'm sorry, they are
unsubstantiated allegations, and nothing that you're saying to.
She has admitted it.
Nothing you're saying to attack. Nothing you're saying.
Has admitted
nothing you're saying to attack the accuser, Lady Collins, will change the fact that Prince Andrew, who's nearly 30 years her senior, that he publicly declared just a few months before the settlement, I will not settle this case. I will have my day in court. I will clear my name. And then he settled with a big check. And she did the same thing, and she settled. He's a senior member of the royal family.
And she settled.
He was the one accused of sexual assault of in America, a minor. And he settled that case without clearing his name.
She was
you
not
say he's innocent. How do we know he's innocent?
She was not a minor for sexual purposes in either England or the United States of America, the states that were concerned. She was over the age of consent. You know, Piers, rarely
that's not true either. I'm sorry, that's actually not true. She was under the age of
what
lawful.
Is not true?
She was considered a legal minor in at least one of the American locations where the sex was alleged to have happened. But my point is, you say Andrew was innocent.
That's not so.
That is so, actually.
The state that... It's not so, because the state of New York is 16 years old or 17, and in England it is over. She was 17 years old, so I'm sorry, that's absolute rubbish.
No, it's not rubbish.
She was over the age of sexual
I don't think you understand
in both territories.
You don't understand the law of consent, age of consent in American states. It's fine. Let's come back to you on this. I mean, look, emotions run high about this kind of thing. And the bottom line for me is that Andrew decided to settle it, Katie. So when someone settles it and doesn't have their day in court, having promised to me, it's like, well, you're not even proving you're innocent.
No, it's
You've just paid off the case.
No, absolutely. But I think also, you know, if I can just move the conversation on a little bit from this, there is an underlying issue here. And I think what this exposes is that difficult situation that the Queen is in as monarch and as a mother.
I agree.
Now, I remember I was told by a very close source to the Queen that she had challenged Andrew, asked him if he was innocent, and he told her repeatedly that he was. Now, she clearly believes him.
Yeah.
And and as Lady C says, in fairness, innocent until proven guilty.
We don't know he's guilty.
Absolutely.
We just know he didn't go and have his day in court.
Absolutely. But putting that aside, the problem is, I go back to this, is the optics. And for someone who has settled out of court and all the sort of murky image of that, really, at a time when we're wanting to see the royal family united and at its best and behind the Queen, do we need Andrew tagging along? As I say, the graceful thing would have been to exit quietly. He's not serving any purpose other than to detract and make headlines, in my opinion, for all the wrong reasons.
And also on the Garter Day, being seen as a royal knight in all the regalia. Really?
Well, I think
that day honours chivalry.
Yes.
I mean, are we really going to be having Andrew parading around in his gown, honouring chivalry, wearing this kind of clobber?
No, this is the problem.
Right, when he's just settled a sex abuse case. Anyway, look, got to leave it there. Katie, thank you. Lady Collins, thank you. Feisty as always. Appreciate you joining me. Uncensored next, after a deadly shooting at a US elementary school left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. We speak to Scarlett Lewis, who tragically lost her 6-year-old son Jesse in the Sandy Hook massacre of 2012. That's after the break. 19 children were shot dead at school in Uvalde, Texas yesterday. They were all under the age of 12, slaughtered in their classroom by an 18-year-old maniac who just bought the guns he used for his 18th birthday present. These children's parents took them to school yesterday morning, their young hearts joyful with excitement for another day of education and fun with their friends. But they never went home and they're never going home. And those parents will never recover now from the loss of their children. They were slaughtered by this 18-year-old lunatic who was then shot dead by police in the deadliest school massacre since Sandy Hook. For survivors and victims' families of the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre in Connecticut, the attack at the Robb Elementary School in Texas brings up chilling reminders of a very dark day in American history. Scarlett Lewis's son, Jesse, was just 6 years old when he was killed, along with 19 other students and 6 adults. And Scarlett joins me now. Scarlett, thank you so much for joining me. I thought of all of you because I was on air at the time in America at CNN when this happened. It was an absolutely harrowing story to report on, as indeed had been the similar massacre at Dunblane in Scotland in the mid-90s. And in fact, this morning I had an email exchange with one of the mothers of one of the children who died at Dunblane, because I recognise that for all of you trapped in this appalling club of mothers and fathers who've lost kids to these school massacres, when another one happens, it must take you all right back to the day that you lost your own children. Is that what it was like for you when you heard about this?
Absolutely, Piers. I was living the experience right alongside all of those parents when they were waiting to get word whether their child was going to be found dead or alive, those hours, those torturous hours. And then, my first thought this morning was how they would wake up and for one split second forget, and then this crushing blow would come down over them that their child was dead, that yesterday they were planning the summer fun, and today they're going to have to start thinking about writing an obituary. They're going to have to start planning for funerals. And it was a gut punch to me, and so incredibly painful. And honestly, I can't believe that I'm standing here talking to you 10 years after the murder of my own son, Jesse, at Sandy Hook, alongside 19 of his first grade classmates and 6 educators. And now here we have another one after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of school shootings later. And of course, Columbine 20 years before. And we are still hearing the same tired narrative. It is so frustrating.
You know, there's the saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. You could switch this round and say that with these massacres in America and the school shootings, the definition of insanity is doing nothing again and again and again and expecting a different result. You know, I knew after Sandy Hook that if there was no change at all in the way that America was going to respond to these massacres, then inevitably there would be more of them.
I felt the same way, Piers. I saw some movement, but we're always a step behind. And the frustrating thing is these are preventable, every single one. And we're reactive. And as you said, we do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's the definition of crazy. That's why after Jesse's murder, Obama flew in. He was talking about gun control, and I realized that that had failed, obviously, for Sandy Hook. And so I took a different approach. I decided to focus on the root cause of the pain and suffering that leads to these events. And so, in other words, offering schools, homes, and communities skills and tools that they can use that help kids face their hurt and pain, be able to manage it, live with it, grow through it, be strengthened by it, and flourish. I think that this is absolutely 100% necessary. It should be in every single school. And I'm actually on my Choose Love bus tour right now. You caught me in New Hampshire, working for Governor Sununu, traveling around the state, bringing love, hope, and healing to communities here that we've been doing through the pandemic, and we will continue to do.
You do remarkable work, and it's very inspiring that out of such an appalling tragedy, you're able to find the strength to do this, and I commend you for that. I want to take you back to what happened to your boy. He was 6 years old, and he was an absolute little hero because he was in the classroom when the shooter, Adam Lanza, came in and his gun jammed. And your little lad, Jesse, shouted at his friends to get out of the classroom, which a large number of them did. I think 8 or 9 of the kids got out. And then he was shot dead. An absolute hero. Was that in keeping with his character?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was Jesse. And if he wasn't coming back as we waited for those hours, I knew that he would have done something brave. And when the shooter had shot his way through the glass doors of Sandy Hook Elementary School, he made a left down the first grade hallway. Of course, he knew where that was because he had attended that school. The principal and guidance counselor were meeting with a parent. They were startled. They opened the door to see what the noise was all about. They were gunned down, and then the shooter turned into Jesse's first grade classroom. Everyone was scattered. His gun actually ran out of bullets at that time, and during the short delay that it took him to change his clip, Jesse called for his classmates to run. And he is credited with saving 9 of his classmates' lives before losing his own. No child should ever be asked to do that in school. I mean, it is our responsibility to keep our kids safe and to address their mental health and well-being. And we have to start taking that responsibility a lot more seriously. In fact, we need to start making our kids a priority.
Scarlett, I could not agree with you more. I think the desensitization of this generation of kids is a massive problem. I think it's driven by endless exposure to shocking imagery and videos and so on from social media shared around. You know, they're seeing stuff in real time happening minutes after it happens, whereas 40 years ago you would never have seen it. And I think it's a massive problem. I'm awestruck by your courage and your inspiration, to be perfectly honest. You know, I remember Sandy Hook so vividly. You know, it made me upset just remembering it as I thought about your boy and all the others. So thank you for what you're doing, because we've got to try and work our way through this. And there's not a simple solution. And I just want to end by saying, again, how heroic your lad Jesse was that day. He saved the lives of so many of his little classmates, and it cost him his life, but what an amazing little hero he was. And I wish you all the very best with your campaigning. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks, Piers.
Frenchman Lucas Puert is the first player to declare he won't play Wimbledon this year because there'll be no ranking points. It follows the decision to penalise the All England club for banning Russian and Belarusian players. 18-time Grand Slam tennis champion Martina Navratilova gave me her thoughts. Martina, thank you for joining me. We did discuss this a few weeks ago, didn't we? And things have really escalated now, where it's becoming this massive furore. I've got to say, since we last spoke, I think I shared your view then that punishing individuals seemed the wrong way to punish Putin. But I then interviewed Vladimir Klitschko, the Ukrainian boxer, last week, and he said this to me.
The war is going on. They cannot participate in the next Olympic Games. They cannot participate in any athletic events because this war is represented by Russia. So athletes representing Russia. And there's definitely connection.
I've got to say that when I listened to him speaking so powerfully, he did slightly sway me, I've got to be honest, because I can just imagine a situation where a Russian tennis star ends up winning a Wimbledon trophy and, you know, has it presented to him or her by the Duchess of Cambridge, for example. What a PR bonanza that would be for Vladimir Putin right now, and something that I just don't think as a country could tolerate that kind of scenario unfurling. So I'm not sure that Wimbledon have had a lot of choice, given the pressure from the UK government to do this.
Sure, I understand so much where the players and people in the Ukraine are coming from, 100%. I can so relate to this. I am thinking there's a big difference between team events and individual events. And also, you have Russian and Belarusian players on team sports. For example, Alexei Ovechkin playing for the Washington Capitals in the NHL. Not a peep out of anybody that he should not be playing for that team. Plus, he's a massive supporter of Vladimir Putin on top of that. So you have a player like Rublev who has disowned the war. He had written on the camera, "No to war," yet he can't play. So it's just, you look, there's no winning situation here. And now you have a controversial decision. If it was the right thing, I think we would not be so ambivalent about it both ways. So there's just no good way out of it. Bad situation, of course, horrible situation with the war, bad situation with Wimbledon making this rule, and now another kind of iffy decision, not giving the points. But you just try to make the best out of a horrible situation.
If you were still playing, if you were still playing, Martina, at the top of your game and may even be in the running, as you were, of course, many times to win a Wimbledon title, what would you have done? If the points weren't there to be won, would you have taken a view like Naomi Osaka and said, well, actually, in that case, I'm not going to play? Would you have taken a principled stand in support of Russian and Belarusian tennis players? What would your view have been, do you think?
No, I would. Well, first of all, I could care less that there were no points given, because I always play for the trophies, not the points and not the money. So for me, it was Wimbledon and nothing else, and everything else came in second. So the points were, this is not an exhibition. I don't understand that view that players wouldn't play because there are no points. So you're playing for computer ranking. I just wanted to hold that trophy, that wonderful Venus rose dish. So it's, there's no good way out of this, but I don't understand the players that say they don't want to play because of points. This is why you're playing tennis?
Right.
To get points into the computer and see your ranking going up or down or whatever. I could have cared less. When I won Wimbledon, I didn't know that I became number one. I learned that in the press conference when they told me, by the way, you're number one. I'm like, oh, great. That's just cherry on the cake.
Naomi Osaka, I've got to say, barely a week goes by without Naomi Osaka whining about something. She just got all her priorities wrong. Should she go back to just wanting to win big trophies and keep quiet?
Well, it's kind of nice if you can walk away from a potential, £2 million payday. Most people don't have that luxury. But I just don't understand that mentality. And I would like to sit down with her and just tell her about the history of Wimbledon. The Russian players, Belarusian players, wouldn't even occur to her that she would not play if they were playing and the points weren't taken away. So I don't understand that mentality, but there's a lot of things that I don't understand these days. Certainly.
Well, I think if they all had your winning mentality, trust me, they'd win a lot more tournaments because you were one of the all-time greats. Martina, brilliant to talk to you. Thank you very much. Uncensored. Next, former MI6 chief Sir Richard Dearlove tells me why he believes Putin will be out of power by next year. It's coming up.
This is Talk TV.
His propaganda machine portray him as a strong, fearless leader. But recent images of Vladimir Putin looking bloated suggest otherwise. Former head of the British Secret Intelligence, Sir Richard Dearlove, tells me why he thinks Putin will be out of power by next year. Sir Richard, great to see you. You are the real-life M, aren't you?
Well,
you were.
I was once. C, not M.
C, you were C. I'm so sorry. Of course, you were higher up the chain. A perfect person then to talk about what is going on with Ukraine, because a lot of people are thinking the way to stop this is to get to Putin. In your previous life, would you have been contemplating using a James Bond-like assassin to go in and take him out?
I don't think that would have been a practical approach to the problem, so no.
Would it not? I mean, it's a serious question.
Well, it's a serious question.
People have mooted the idea of assassinating him as being the way to stop what is going on. Do you think it would, even if
we're not in a state of war with Russia at the moment, so that would not, in my view, be an option which the government could even consider.
But your belief is that Putin is sick and may not have long to live.
Yeah, my belief. Well, take one look at him. If it was your father, what would you think?
Yeah,
he was seriously ill. I mean, the fact that he shook hands at that victory parade with the hand he doesn't use, I think is a clear indication that there's something fundamentally wrong. I mean, let alone the other symptoms that he's showing.
Is it more dangerous for the world if he is, say, terminally ill with a cancer or something, and only he knows this and his medical team? Is that more dangerous because it may encourage him to do something reckless?
Well, I think if he's seriously ill, his judgment may be impaired. So you have a collision, as it were, between the geopolitics of Russia and its loss of Ukraine and Putin's health. I think that's a pretty unsavoury combination of factors.
It's a very unsettling time at the moment for geopolitics. You've got President Biden being quite forceful about Taiwan and what he may do, taking the American position to a slightly stronger place than it's been before, saying he would engage militarily. We've obviously got Ukraine. You've got all the issues with wheat and other produce now, potentially causing starvation, especially in Africa, Middle East. These are worrying times, massive inflation. What do you make of it all? You've been around the block, if you don't mind me saying, for a few decades. Have you seen anything quite like this?
No, probably not. We're living in a period of, geopolitical. Well, maybe we should call it crisis. The pandemic's been probably the most disruptive event socially and to an extent politically since World War II. And on top of that now, we have a major war on the European continent. So, and let alone the other problems with, the price of energy, the situation with China, we have a concatenation of crises, some larger than others. But yes, it's highly problematic.
Does social media amplify all this in the sense that when you were running MI6, you dealt with all sorts of massive issues? Are things actually worse now, or are they just amplified by the fact we can see it all in real time?
Well, social media definitely exaggerates and amplifies the problem, and let's say increases the level of social anxiety because the messages are broadcast so widely and to so many people. But I mean, I think the situation is genuinely worrying and difficult, and we have a variety of apparently insoluble and difficult problems facing the government, facing any nation state.
What's the thing you miss most about being C in MI6, running our spies? And what's the thing you miss least?
Well, I think being in a position where you know a lot about what's going on. I guess I could say I never really had a boring day at work in my life. Not many people could say that. It's a privilege to be at the centre.
Yeah.
And to know what's going on.
Also slightly terrifying, though, wasn't it? I mean...
Well, the job is not for somebody who's of a nervous disposition.
No.
Let's put it like that. I think you need to be relatively calm in the way that you view crises, which at any moment can sort of escalate in front of you. What am I pleased about? Well, I think in a way I'm pleased that I'm not head of the service any longer.
Really?
I mean, I was in it for a very long time, and I think I did my bit, served my country. I'm very proud of that. But
what was the moment, if I could let you relive it again, what was the single most memorable moment for whatever reason, of your tenure?
Oh, I guess it has to be 9/11.
Yeah.
And the events of 9/11.
And when that happened, I mean, when you're in that job, you must know this is now, your world has completely changed, as so many did. Yeah. But were you able to stay calm even in a moment like that?
I think so. Ask my colleagues and friends. I think I had a reputation for remaining calm.
You also had a reputation for integrity. If you had been caught as the boss of MI6 during a pandemic with severe lockdowns, hosting leaving parties, having a large number of your staff, 86 of them, getting fines from the police for having illegal lockdown-breaking parties, would you have fallen on your sword and done the honourable thing?
I wouldn't have been in that position.
Right. So what do you make of the fact that the Prime Minister was in that position?
I think I'm going to avoid comment on the Prime Minister.
Well, you don't have to sit on the fence anymore, Sir Richard.
Well, on that particular issue, I am going to sit on the fence. But, I mean, what I would say is that, you know, if you're in an organisation, particularly if you're leading an organisation like the Secret Intelligence Service, the issue of integrity is absolutely crucial. And,
so you wouldn't have put yourself in that position? I mean, there's a picture coming out tonight from Piers from the Daily Mirror, and it's a picture of what is quite clearly a lavish amount of alcohol for a party. I mean, there's just no denying it. Do you think when we get told as the public that's not a party, we're being taken for mugs, Sir Richard?
All I would say is if you're a lawyer, it's quite difficult to describe what a party is. So I think that's my reply to that difficult question.
Final question for you. Who should be the next James Bond after Daniel Craig? Well, and should it ever be a woman?
I'm a traditionalist, and I think it should be a man because that's the way Ian Fleming conceived of the role.
Correct.
And
who would you like to see do it next?
Well, I've looked at a list of the candidates, and my pick would be, and I'm not an expert.
No.
But if I was,
you are.
Well, I'm an expert for the role.
Yes.
I think the one who suits it best of the list, but I don't know all of them, is probably Tom Hiddleston.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he ruined it with the Taylor Swift Ocean T-shirt pictures.
You know more about that than I do.
I'm an Idris Elba fan myself. I think he'd be a cracking Bond.
Well, he would be good. I agree.
Yeah, he's got that sort of steely charm.
Well, you need steely charm.
I did actually pitch myself to Barbara Broccoli only 3 months ago.
You would have been rather...
Well, it's not a big leap from Pierce Brosnan to Piers Morgan, is it? I mean, let's be honest. Right?
Well, maybe they should have a real C as M.
Yes!
Why not?
A great idea, Sir Richard.
So why don't you suggest it? Casting director.
Sir Richard Dealov, what a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for joining me. Yeah. Zachary Daranovsky created a TikTok account during the pandemic in the hope of finding new friends. He now has more than 8 million of them. He surprises strangers with random acts of kindness, and he's now raised thousands for good causes in the process.
It all really stemmed from when I was depressed and borderline suicidal in medical school. I was studying medicine at the University of Sydney, and it was almost a cry for help at the time. I made a video about depression and what I was going through. And then it just took a life of its own over the last 10 months. So it started with raising mental health awareness to then unconditional love and kindness. And then I've been able to grow this thing to almost 12 million followers in 10 months. And someone a few months ago said, it'd be nice if you could monetarily help these people, in which most situations I've come across, it's the people who have the least want to give the most. So it was all been community funded. This video right here, where I'm blindfolded hugging a stranger, I'm blindfolded because I didn't know how to connect with my family and friends back home when I was depressed and suicidal, and I found it much easier to connect with a stranger. I hug people because I haven't hugged someone in 2 years, and I tell strangers every time I meet them that I love them because no one told me they love me in 2 years.
Right. I mean, you've got 8.5 million followers on TikTok. You've had 273 million likes on TikTok, millions more on other platforms. Could you have even imagined in your wildest dreams when you started this that you'd end up as this kind of TikTok Samaritan sensation?
Absolutely not. I made the first video to find a friend and then continue medical school. So this was never in my wildest dreams what I thought I'd be doing right now. And
how do you actually raise the money? I know you crowdfunded, but how does that work?
So there's a donation link on all my platforms that runs 24/7. So however much I'm able to raise within that span before I make the next video, I then directly either give $500 away or $1,000. And then even more powerful I find is when I find a stranger where that money isn't enough, I link GoFundMe. So we've raised nearly $250,000 in the past couple months for strangers on top of the fact of the videos.
Absolutely incredible. Well, look, I found it very moving, your story. I love what you do. We'd like to just do a little tiny contribution towards it because you've been kind enough to come on the show. So we'd love to just give you $1,000 from Piers Morgan Uncensored. The next time you're out there, just give it to whoever you think would deserve that. And that's just our little way of saying thank you for the interview. And thank you for what you're doing. It's an amazing thing.
Piers Morgan, thank you so much for that. You have no idea how much that means to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for this opportunity to connect. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Zachary. We need more people like you in the world. Good luck to you. Uncensored next. It's the glamorous, the glittering, the fantastically irrepressible Dame Joan Collins. We thought it was only fitting that we roll out the first ever red carpet on Piers Morgan Uncensored for the great lady. The Hollywood legend will be here with me after the break. Well, my next guest is true Hollywood royalty with a glittering career spanning 7 decades, awarded the Damehood by Prince Charles for her services to charity in 2015. And next week will be part of a Dames in Jags procession at the Queen's Jubilee pageant. I'm thrilled to say Dame Joan Collins.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great, but I want to congratulate you on having your own show.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
Well, it's lovely to, it doesn't really feel like my own show until you're here.
Oh,
I feel like you're anointing me. Like it's almost after the Queen, it's the next best thing to a royal visit.
Oh, please. Come on.
Now, you're part of the Dames in Jags. What is this?
The Hags in Jags, I call it. Well, this thing is going to be so enormous. I mean, so fantastic. It's going. Have you ever been to the Macy's Thanksgiving parade? It's going to be like that. They're going to have all these floats. They're going to have people dancing and singing and all kinds of people on it. And then we are coming down in these amazing vintage Jaguars.
Brilliant.
Open. I've got a white one, and Twiggy's there, and Dame Darcy Bussell, and I can't remember who the others are. You must have it written down somewhere.
A load of great dames.
Well, I think so. And then we are going to go around waving gracefully, I hope, to the populace who are going to line up. And then we're going to go and hopefully go into one of the boxes and watch the rest of it. But it's very exciting because I'm such a monarchist and I'm such a royalist and I love the Queen so much that to have been asked is really...
You've been in movies 70 years. The Queen has been on the throne 70 years.
I know. Oh,
it's quite amazing. And there you are together. But she's a remarkable woman, isn't she?
She is the most inspirational woman, I think, that ever has lived in my lifetime. I don't know. I never knew Mother Teresa or Joan of Arc, but, I mean, they were probably pretty good. But, no, she is, because she's so down to earth and gentle and humorous, and she's got through all of these dreadful things that have happened to her. I mean, they really have been some awful things that she's had to deal with. And she does it with such grace. And the fact that she has never, ever commented on anything that's going on.
No interviews.
Nothing. Yeah. But even an aside, because, you know, there are people deliberating, and they could say that she said, oh, I think this play is ghastly, as we all do when we go to see something. But the last time I saw her, it was at Buckingham Palace, and we were talking about Pygmalion, My Fair Lady, because some students gave a performance, and she's so knowledgeable about the theatre. And we had a really very nice chat. No, I just love her. She's been a part of my life. I kept a scrapbook of her wedding to Prince Philip when I was a schoolgirl. We were all madly in love with Prince Philip at school, you know, because he was so good looking.
She must really miss Philip, don't you think? I mean,
well, after, 74 years of being married? Yes, but look at that man who just died with a broken heart.
I know, well, the story from Texas.
I know.
I mean, imagine, they've got 4 children.
Oh, no.
The teacher had been teaching there for many years. She gets shot dead by this lunatic. And then within 24 hours, her husband literally dies of a broken heart. This was his childhood sweetheart. But those 4 kids now have no parents.
Oh, my God. It's
heartbreaking.
It's beyond terrible what goes on with these things. I don't understand why, if somebody posts pictures of themselves on social media, buying guns, talking about guns, saying, I want to kill people, why they can't be... Why the FBI or the CIA or whoever go after them?
He literally put on Instagram pictures of the 2 AR-15 rifles. But here's the point. He was 18... And when he turned 18 a couple of weeks ago, he was legally allowed to buy these guns. He went and bought these guns. He couldn't have bought a beer. That would have been illegal. He couldn't buy a Kinder Surprise chocolate egg. They're illegal in the whole of America because the toys may choke you. But an 18-year-old boy could buy 2 AR-15 semi-automatic rifles and then go and do what he did.
Can you imagine being a mother and hearing that?
No.
Or even being a mother now and sending your kids to school and thinking, are they going to be safe?
I
mean, you always thought your children were going to be safe.
I actually emailed a friend of mine who's one of the Dunblane mothers, because every time one of these things happens, I just can't imagine what they go through. And I sent her a note, and she replied a very nice, heartfelt email, but it always takes them strate back when they have this.
Well, of course it does.
And their kids never grow up, and just what they have to go through is so unthinkable.
I think the whole thing is unthinkable, and I think the whole thing of somebody mentally wanting to kill children, babies, which, of course, is what is going on in Ukraine as well, but we don't seem to talk about that anymore.
Well, that's another thing, you know, Ukraine's disappearing from the news agenda,
I know.
Which is what Vladimir Putin wants. He's carrying on. Of course, he wants us to stop talking about it. Let him just carry on seizing the country.
It's just appalling.
Which is what he's doing, you know.
But is it true that She's very ill. I keep on hearing these rumours.
People say that. I mean, who the hell knows? All I do know is he is razing cities to the ground, literally destroying them.
Worse than Hitler.
Like he did in... Yes, he is.
Worse than Hitler.
He's up there with Hitler.
Yeah,
and I think his aspiration is to seize Ukraine and then to try and seize other countries.
Oh, of course.
And he has to be
Next stop,
stopped.
Finland.
Yeah.
Norway.
What do you make of Partygate, Boris Johnson? You know Boris Johnson. You've been at parties with Boris Johnson.
Yeah, he was my boss once. When he was
at the Spectator.
When he was at the Spectator, yeah. What do I think of it? I have to say I haven't really gotten involved in it totally, but I haven't exactly seen, fizzing bottles of champagne and and people sitting down. To me, a party is people sitting down.
Well, they had a few big ones.
Drinks.
I mean, he may
not
have
really
been.
Did? I haven't read it.
There have been some big ones, and they were vomiting and fighting and breaking
nice.
stuff. Yeah, but
I don't go to parties where
ultimately,
people
it's not about parties. What it's about the fact that they were doing all this, breaking the laws they had made, and everybody else, including the Queen, who at Philip's funeral had to sit on her own because she wanted to obey the rules. And the night before, they were partying in Downing Street till 4 a.m., which I think is unforgivable.
Well, I do too. I think it's terrible. But what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to get rid of Boris. Who are you going to bring in?
Actually, yes, I do, actually. I do think when a Prime Minister breaks their own rules and gets fined by the police for it during a pandemic, that's a resignation offence. It used to be. In the old days, men would fall on their sword as a matter of honour. I don't think he knows how to spell the word.
Well, who do you suggest, then, is our next Prime Minister?
Somebody that can restore a bit of integrity and trust.
Somebody. Who's the somebody?
There's always somebody.
There's never...
Every time you think
I don't think there's a somebody.
No leader is irreplaceable.
No,
you are, but you're irreplaceable. I'm not.
I don't know about that.
Let me talk to you about another thing. Wimbledon today has announced that they're removing from the honours board Ms. and Miss before the names of previous winners. They want to make it gender neutral. What are your thoughts?
I think that's just the way everything's going, isn't it?
But why?
What about the men?
Well, the men, they just call them, N. Djokovic.
It's just something that's been going on, and it's something to me that, since Emily Pankhurst, women have fought for equal rights. So I suppose this is them saying, well, this is equal rights, the men.
What if they say to you, right, you can't be called a dame anymore because it's too female a title?
Well, they haven't said that to me.
Well, what if they did? What if they came for your damehood?
Well, I just threw it to them.
You wouldn't. You love being a dame, don't you?
I love being a dame. I mean, it's very flattering. In Britain, particularly, because people know what it is. In the rest of the country, they don't know. I mean, in the rest of the world, in America, a dame is, something from Damon Runyon.
That's what Frank Sinatra used to call his girlfriends.
Yeah, a dame. Yeah, and, of course, in Europe, like in France, Percy sometimes says to somebody, it's Dame Jungle, oh, dame. Yeah, they think this is... No, I like it, of course, but, I'm very old-fashioned.
So when you see this debate where politicians can't even say what a woman is now, what do you make...
Now we're not going to get on that subject. I do not approve of people saying that. Of course not, because it's just not fair. It's not right. And
what is the answer to that question?
I do not wish to get cancelled by the trans community. No. Thank you very much.
No, but what is a woman?
What is a woman? Me. Celia, her over there. There's plenty of us.
I mean, but are you worried that in this trans debate, because I support trans rights to fairness
and
equality.
So do I, of course.
I just don't like the attack on women's rights that some of the activists are driving, where you have in sport this apparent unfairness now going on. I mean, what do you think when you see that?
Well, I don't watch sport.
No, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I know what you're talking about, yes, and I know what you want me to say.
I don't want you to say anything.
Yes,
I never
of course you
dream
do.
to tell you what to say.
Yes, you want me to agree with you.
No, I don't. This is uncensored, this show.
But of course it's uncensored. I think that a person should be who they feel that they are and who they... But I do believe... I can't say this. I can't say this. No, I can't.
Why? You feel like you can't because you may get into trouble?
I can't because I don't want to get hate mail.
You see, but you've gone through your entire career saying exactly what you always think.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
No,
I've read your diary.
I've never gotten into the politics of biology.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Well, I understand why people don't want to go there. Yeah.
Well, yes, I don't want to go there.
Talking of biology, what about Madonna, who's auditioning for a new boy toy?
You're kidding.
She is.
No, you've just made that up.
No, she's apparently...
Really?
She wants him to be hard-bodied.
What do you mean?
Hard-bodied and young.
Oh, Oh, that's right. We were with her son, Rocco,
Yeah.
last summer.
Oh.
And he said, you know, my mother says that she will not sleep with anybody over the age of 25. I said, no, Rocco, you're kidding.
Well, that's never been your rule, has it?
No, I don't have rules. Rules. I'm very happily married with 20 years. You didn't come to our anniversary party.
I wasn't here, as you know. I was in Australia.
I know.
It was a fantastic party. And the great Percy, as he always is, he's lurking in the wings like a protective knight.
Oh, don't say that word, lurking. He's standing
like a protective
there.
knight, look at him.
He's standing. He saved me from the most embarrassing wardrobe malfunction at the party. Yes, I was talking to Richard Arnold, your friend.
Oh, yeah.
And he was terribly funny. He made me laugh. And the whole zipper in the back of my dress went.
No.
And I'm sitting there with it completely gaping open. And there's loads of photographers. It was a big party. And I said to Percy, I don't know what to do. I know there was another dress I was possibly going to wear. Because the theme was red, white or blue. Because it was a Jubilee party. So I said, you know, the white dress that I left in the wardrobe, do you think you could bring it? So he went on. Luckily, we don't live too far away, and I changed into another dress.
And we were spared, well, what would have been perhaps a delightful incident.
I had to sit there for at least half an hour, and I had a huge feather boa, which I kept on putting on Christopher Biggins around his neck. He really liked that. And, but it was
fantastic. Dame Joan, I've got to leave it there. But it was a wonderful interview. It's great to see you, and I cannot wait to see you in your Jag on Sunday at the Platinum Jubilee. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, yes, I'm going to see you there. See you around.
I'll see you there.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm seeing you for dinner tomorrow night.
Oh,
I'm a lucky guy.
New restaurant.
And dinner with Joan Collins, let me tell you, is hilarious. Lovely to see you.
Great to see you.
That's it from me. Whatever you're up to this weekend, make sure it's uncensored. Good night.
Talk TV is going to be the kind of channel that when you have sat there, as I do in this industry, as a journalist, and you think about what a channel should be, what is missing out there. You know, people have given things a go. They've tried to say, look, this is where we're going to have common sense and real views and represent what ordinary people think. And it's never really happened. And actually, Talk TV has come along, and it absolutely is about to nail that very thing.
This is Talk TV News.
Good evening, I'm Zora Suleiman. Texas officials say it was the wrong decision not to storm a classroom where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers. Police have been criticised after it was confirmed the gunman roamed outside for 12 minutes before entering. More Tory MPs have called on Boris Johnson to go following the Sue Gray report. 3 MPs have called on the Prime Minister to quit, including Sir Bob Neill, Alicia Kearns and earlier Paul Holmes quit as a Home Office aide. Talk TV has learnt up to 3 people a day are now dying whilst waiting for an ambulance in the UK. One NHS whistleblower told the news desk extreme staff shortages have left Chelmsford in Essex with just 1 ambulance on call throughout an entire night. That's all for now. We'll have more after the talk.